Welcome to Mac and Bleu, where we introduce you to who is building Arizona, bringing you the people and businesses that shape the landscape around us. From economic development and developers, underwriters and lenders, architects and engineers, to the very builders and suppliers that bring it all together. For all things Mac and Bleu, head to www.macandbleu.com and don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Now let's join our host, JJ Levinsky.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mac and Bleu. I'm JJ Levinsky, your host, president and co-founder of Bleu General Contracting. Today, I've got Adam Wong on. I'm going to have to read some of this because his, he's got more damn degrees and entitlements than whatever, a used car salesman, but I'm just kidding. No, so Adam Wong is co-founder of Rockstar Workforce. Sorry, I had to find it again. And today, hopefully we're going to get into a bunch of soft skills, emotional intelligence, kind of cool stuff. Known about Adam for a while now, and he has played in our space, meaning building Arizona, quite a bit. Yep. I believe you were just on ABA doing a facilitated ABA type thing. So yeah, I spy on my guests every once in a while. Of course. So with that, let's kick it off, and welcome, Adam.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Just to put framework in place, everyone wants to get to know a little bit about you. So go back, give us the bio first. Kind of just how did you get into this space and go back and maybe a little education, all that kind of stuff.
For sure. I get that question quite a bit. It's like, hey, how'd you get into leadership? And depending on how much time I have, that'll kind of vary on how I answer. I get like the surface level answer of, well, here's how I started the business. But if you want to get real, I'll go kind of deeper in how I really got into it. And it goes back a long ways. It goes back to like childhood, really.
Really?
Yeah. So I get the question of why leadership training. That's the core of our business, what we do. And if I really look back on how I got into it, it starts back then. Kind of three different elements. One is I'm a middle child.
Oh,
so, you one of those?
No.
So I got
But I grew up with the Brady Bunch, so it's,
oh, did you?
Yeah, we know who you are. You're Jan.
Yeah. So I come from a house of four boys.
Ooh.
And my older brother, 4.5 years older, and then I have twin brothers who are 6 years younger. So I'm right there in the middle. So I was always kind of caught in the middle of that. But as we were growing up, my brother was off to high school and college, and I was always back at the house taking care of the kids, taking care of my twin brothers.
Oh.
Sometimes my parents were working. My summer job was taking care of them. So at a very young age, that kind of happened. And then bringing to sports, played a lot of sports growing up, and I always had that drive to...
Are you an Arizona native?
Arizona native, okay. Yeah, born and raised in Phoenix. Be that captain, take charge, take the lead. And at the time, I didn't realize it, of course, but look back, and a lot of it was ingrained in me young. And then, unfortunately, I also had drugs and alcohol was a big part of my life. Not mine, but around me.
Around you?
Yeah, around me, as around me. So that and a few divorces. So divorces of my mom, my dad got divorced, remarried, bring in the drugs, the alcohol. And like, why is that tied into leadership? Is because as I got into my adolescence, my teenage years, I realized that what was around me is not what I wanted. And so I wanted to create something different. So now fast forward a little bit, I get into the working age, and I always wanted to get the next promotion. I always wanted to, make a little bit more money. Whether it was I was 16, 17 years old up through my into college and my college jobs. So it first started about me. It's like I wanted to grow and develop and take charge of my life. But then there was a transitionary period where I started to manage people. I got into college. As you were mentioning, degrees and whatnot. My undergrad was in business. I was focusing on leadership. I then got into leading more and more people. And that's when I started transitioning into caring about other people, not just about my own promotions. And so that's kind of inspired me to focus on the people side of businesses. And went back on my MBA, yada, yada. So we can talk about that stuff. But I think the more interesting part is my first real career job was working for this company called TTI Success Insights. They are headquartered here in North Scottsdale. They're a global company, but what they create are very high-level, comprehensive leadership assessments. that companies use to hire people, to coach people. It's basically a super in-depth assessment about a person. And it was a great introduction to leadership. And I was able to refine skills there, learn. You mentioned emotional intelligence. So that's some of the stuff that we made there. And so that's really I honed in on the whole people side of business. And that's when I started to go down that path of helping other people.
Go back to, and just for everyone, for the audience sake, he's in, he's got 2 of the 4 colleges covered in Arizona. So by the time he gets his doctorate, maybe he can cover the other 2. So he's got an undergrad from NAU and an MBA from GCU.
Mm-hmm.
In between those, though, Adam, I take it in between those, you were in the workforce, naturally, you're a hustler, those kind of things. So when you went back for your MBA, was it driven on these principles or just the principles of MBA specifically?
Good
you know
question.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Was it just finance and success driven, or had you started to glean off of this leadership assessment type stuff at an earlier age?
Yeah, good combination of both.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was at a point in my career where I wanted to learn more, take on more, and that was a good avenue. And I liked the education they had there. And then I also thought it's going to help me in my career individually if I can go get this. So the kind of the catalyst was both. It was learn more, help people, but also it's going to help me in my career.
So then, so get into the one of your first avenues, or one of your, before you of course have Rockstar. Give the audience a perspective of what were those nuggets, and kind of tell the story of how that precipitated into kind of starting who you are today.
Okay, yeah. So I'll go back a little bit about the time at TTI. Is what we were doing there is we were helping companies. We're helping companies become better by learning more about their people, by hiring better people, coaching them, developing them. And I had at that time kind of the entrepreneurial itch.
Okay.
Because the way we went to market there was through other coaches, consultants, and training companies. So we didn't go to market directly to the end user. So we were selling through companies. So I saw what they were doing so they essentially were consultants and training companies, and we were selling to them. They would then repackage our stuff and sell it to the end user.
Was it one-offs, or were they recurring revenue models?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
There's a mixture, but there was a lot of recurring revenue for sure. So I saw the business side, and that definitely interested me. Is that I knew someday I would become an authorized partner of TTI Success Insights. That was my vision. Like down the road, at one point, that's what I was going to do. So it really was a matter of what's the niche, and what do I want to focus in? Do I want to focus on helping companies hire the people? Do I want to focus as being a coach, leadership training? There's a lot of different things you can do.
It's pretty broad-based.
It is. And these days, like so many consultants out there, hey, what do you do? I'm a consultant. It's like, okay, well, tell me more.
What kind?
Exactly what kind. And I didn't want it to be that. And so it took a while to figure it out. But ultimately, the more I got to work with companies, the more I got to identify kind of what it was that I wanted to do. And it was all about the leadership stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so then, all right, let's hit fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
What started Rockstar?
Yep. So about 2015, 2016, I knew that it was only a matter of time. At that time, I would say about 1 year to 2 years, I wanted to start something.
Okay.
And came up with the name, Rockstar Workforce. The idea is let's create a workforce of rock stars. Like let's go out there and help companies find their people and develop their people so the companies can prosper, the people can prosper. That was the whole idea. And I wanted to focus here in the Valley. And so I started to put some feelers out there and started to make some connections. And I was able to present a 9-month succession plan back to the owner, the company I was working for. And it shocked him because at the time I was an SVP reporting directly to him. I had a good career going, but I felt like I was kind of stuck.
Right.
And he obliged to it. He's like, all right, I'm sad to see you go, but we'll do it. So I transitioned out of there, was able to start Rockstar Workforce. And at the time, I started kind of like a mixed bag. I'd help companies hire. I would help them with communication workshops, or I could also offer them, like 3-month leadership programs.
Okay.
As I did that, my wife then joined the business about 1 year later. So kind of plug her in. So she's a full partner in the business. She's full-time in the business. And the more we got into it, the more I started to enjoy the leadership programs, the more I started to connect my past skill set, all the education I got. It all kept steering down towards the leadership path. So we started to create curriculum. So we'd create workshop after workshop after workshop from scratch. And that really caught on. And so we were asking companies, hey, what do your people need help with? What are you struggling with? It's like, oh, this month it's managing the conflict. There's so much conflict going on. The next month it'd be they can't manage their emotions. How do we fix that? So we just kept creating curriculum around their needs, and then started going out there and telling more and more companies about it. And that turned into what is today our bread and butter is cohorts, like 6 to 12 month leadership programs where we were either inside of a company. So a company says, hey, we got 20, 40, 60 people that we need to work on, come in-house, help us create this program. So we'll do that. And then we also have our public ones where we'll say, hey, let's go get 2 people from 10 different companies and create a public cohort. So we'll have 20 people that are coming together, but they're from different companies, and that gives different perspective for them and for us. And so then that's creating these leadership tracks.
So take that second one. I think, the first one I think a lot of people know about.
Yep.
Second one, though, paint a picture. Can you give us a story or an example? I mean, without mentioning names.
Yeah.
Where you've done that either in an industry or, a vertical or a specific niche, if you will. Because I think people would be interested because, everyone says, oh, I can't afford that. I can't do this. But they can maybe send 2 or 3 key team members to a more of that consortium type deal. Yeah. Is that a fair assessment?
It's a very fair.
Tell the story then.
Yeah. So let me introduce you to another a partner of ours.
Okay.
And then because that'll kind of bring all this together, and then I can kind of make some resources too. Okay. So have you ever heard of Arizona Growth Advisors?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm an advisor there, and I joined as a.
Notice he didn't say consultant.
It is different. It is different. You're picking up on it, right?
I'm like, hey, I'm gonna play off his words here. I'm gonna zing him.
Yeah. So Arizona Growth Advisors. If you guys haven't heard of them, I would recommend you check them out. So I joined them as a customer 11 years ago, and at the core, what they do is they facilitate executive roundtables. So if you're an executive in the Valley and you want to join a group of peers who are also executives in different industries, and you want to hear about, hey, what's working in your business, what's not working, how do we grow, what have you tried, what have you not tried, that's what that group does. So about 5 years ago, as I was starting Rockstar Workforce, they had a leadership program that they wanted to revamp, and I was a customer of theirs. And they said, hey, Adam, we know you're about to go on your own here. Would you be interested in taking this over and revamping it and maybe even adding more to it? I was like, absolutely, because that was kind of low-hanging fruit for me. So I took that over, and what that was a cohort-style program. So they have a variety of members, and we could go out to those members or companies and say, hey, we have this leadership program. Do you have one person you can send?
Got it.
And the purpose of it is it gives different perspectives when you have people from healthcare, from construction, from finance, from IT. So not only are they learning the leadership curriculum that we're teaching, but they're also getting to hear what's happening in these different industries.
Let me interrupt. So how, again, I always try to ask questions to think through the audience's eyes as they're listening. They want to learn more. One of the stereotypes that goes to my mind instantly, Adam, is how does this differ from YPO, EO, Vistage, where everyone's getting together a month where you're part of that formal group.
Yeah.
Is this basically an informal way of doing that too? And do people have to pay to go to that? I just kind of help put that in context.
So a little more of those parameters.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Vistage.
Yeah.
So Vistage would be very similar to what Arizona Growth Advisors' normal model is.
Okay.
Yeah, like the executive roundtable is you come together for a day with your peers. But the leadership series is quite a bit different.
Okay.
So the leadership series is like a mini MBA program.
Oh.
Say, hey, here it's a 10-month program.
Now I get it.
Yeah. So here's a dedicated curriculum from literally month 1 to month 10. Here's what it's going to look like. So month 1 might be your comprehensive leadership assessment. And then we're going to go into emotional intelligence. And then we're going to go into strategic thinking. So we're going each month's a different topic.
Got it.
But then it does kind of create a story. And so it does build upon itself from the beginning to the very end. And then we do other things like hold people accountable. So since it is this group coming together, they're working as peers, and we're asking at the end of each session, hey, what'd you learn today? What are you going to do today? And then we hold them accountable by, having everybody share everything. And so the idea is you're going to come together, you're going to learn from the curriculum, from the facilitator, from the people, but then they get to all work together.
Okay, thank you. That really helps. When you talked about the 10-month thing, I think then because and if you said it, I apologize. I just didn't hear the time parameters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so then what did that then spark? So you get engaged in that, then how did that facilitate or prosper into other things?
That's where we found the magic there. It's like, okay, this works. This whole 10-month model, 8-month model, plug in the time period, that works. Just having some set curriculum and having a time period and having that cadence of accountability with each individual leader, that became the model to continue to grow and scale our business. And that's what we doubled down on.
Okay. So you kind of gave a spectrum of kind of how you're doing this as and I'm going to keep consultant. By the way, was it Sean? I can't remember. Was it the last? I think we did a recording. Forgive me if I said insultant versus consultant. Have I ever explained that to you?
No, I never heard that
I'm
one.
going to take a spot on my own self plug here on my own podcast to do this. So a consultant gets paid to tell people what they want to hear. An insultant gets paid to tell people what they need to hear.
Ah, okay.
So now you can trademark that.
Yeah, I like it.
Make a few more $1 million out of them.
Yeah, insultant.
So I'm the insultant consultant. All right. Shoot, I forgot to say. Oh, so in that spectrum, I think one of the things that, and hopefully we'll get into we'll get into the EQ part here in a little bit. But is it just me, or what I suspect that you've probably been asked more and more in the recent years or months within your organization of finding and helping retain talent as being one of the highest uses of your leadership type stuff. Mm-hmm. Is that a fair assessment? In other words, human capital.
It is, especially in construction.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, and you don't have to be, yes, that's what our podcast is based on, but you don't have to stay specific to that, because just like what you're talking about with the growth advisors, people want to know what's going on in the other industries, because sometimes we get myopic in construction or architecture or engineering. So, as you're going today, don't think you have to facilitate your answers just to our group. So anyway, talk through that a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think so. Why even engage in someone like us? And I don't want this to be like a sales pitch for us by no means what we're trying to do.
Well, you're here.
But it's so keeping your people. How do you retain your people? Right. And we have a few different strategies we recommend. Okay. But so we look at the employee life cycle, almost like you have a marketing strategy. Do you have a people strategy? How are you going to attract people? And then once you get them, how are you going to continue to grow them and retain them? I don't necessarily love the word retain, but essentially keep them engaged.
Okay.
And then ultimately, if they want to go somewhere else, do you help them do that? But let's stick with how do you keep them? How do you grow them? How do you develop them? With that people strategy, are you identifying the key positions and are you having real conversations with those positions about what makes them happy? What keeps them there? We use this a lot. It's not ours, but we stole it from somebody else. It's called stay interviews. You ever heard of those?
Oh yeah.
Yep. So employing stay interviews and meeting with your people a couple times a year.
Well, I have, but again,
others might not. Yeah.
Take a little tangent and explain a stay interview.
So think of a stay interview as it's not just your one-on-ones you have regularly, but you're having an intentional conversation about, hey, why do you stay here? What do you like about our company? What do you not like about our company?
Yeah.
And you're trying to get them to open up, and you're trying to have some vulnerability, some transparency, and ultimately you want to understand how can you help grow them? How can you keep them? And just having that dialogue can really be helpful. And also skip level meetings is skip level meaning, hey, jump over manager, go to the next manager. So maybe you're the CEO of a company and you don't interact with your two lines down very often. Why not have a skip level meeting with them? Kind of see how things are going and see what's going well with them, what's not going well with them. And that's all in the effort of engaging, retention, and trying to understand where they're at.
The skip it or the skip level meeting, I've heard of it before, but I'm glad you mentioned it because I'd forgotten all about that. Yeah. So that's a good one. The stay interviews they've been around for a while, but they get forgotten.
They do, for sure.
They get swept in the closet and it's like, whatever. Yeah. I think that's a good importance.
But I want to expand on the whole retention part and keeping your people, right? So once you get them, how do you keep them? And I know you said don't focus too much on construction, but I know that industry, it's been about 80% of our business is in construction.
Oh, it is?
Oh, yeah. Oh. So we get to see.
So we got you on the right show.
You did. Yeah, so we see, unfortunately, I'll have a leadership program at one client. 2 weeks later, I'll be at a different client and I'll see an employee I just saw 2 weeks ago walking in that office. So we see it, you guys see it. So how do you keep them? Some things that we see that work well are having real conversations about their future. Real conversations about what makes them happy, What motivates them? What's going to keep them around? Where do they see themselves personally in the next few years? And talk about their family. Where's their family going? Financially, what is that going to look like for them? And then starting to try to align the stars. Like, is that going to work to keep that person there? And then put them on that development plan. So, okay, if you want to be here in 3 years, what's that going to look like? And then how do we grow you? How do we coach you? And then having a regular cadence, like one-on-one meetings on a regular basis, hopefully monthly at least, to really connect with that person, to talk about their career and their role within your company. And it's not just a monthly meeting to talk about, hey, what projects do you have going on? It's really about, hey, how the kids doing? How's home life? How are we treating you? Like having those real vulnerable conversations, that's going to keep people around for a while.
There comes a time when dreams become a reality, when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Blue Wave, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Blue Wave to get it done right the first time.
What are the consistent failures you see, Adam? I mean, if you represent 80% of the, our world,
Yeah, I think
you must see some very consistent themes of where we're achieving underperforming to accommodate what you just kind of played out.
Yeah. So one, right off the bat, and I don't know the solution to this one. It's the growth that we have in this market specifically in Phoenix.
Which is
it's crazy growth. Is there's so much work out there? Is as these companies are growing and scaling, they're key leaders and they're field leaders out there that they can only work so many hours a day. But so how do you help them when there's more and more work coming down the pipe? I had a coaching call just last week, and unfortunately, it's a gentleman. It's like, man, we're growing so fast. We're taking on so much business. I'm working 60, 70 hours a week, and it's not enough. I've been doing this for 2 years. It's not getting any better. What's going to change?
Yeah.
So I don't have the solution, but it's having a real conversation with those people about, hey, how are you doing? Like, is there something we can do around this? So there's that. I don't know the answer to that, but something that could possibly help is having consistent one-on-one conversations with your people. And not just, again, about the projects and the KPIs and what the budget looks like on this next job, but really about how are they doing? And how can you help that person be a little bit better? How can you help that person feel a little better, free up some time? Give them the empower them to take another week-long vacation, whatever the thing is, but have a real conversation with them. We see many of them focused on the project and the task at hand and not so much on the people side.
Well, we as an industry have incentivized that. You said, we've gotten so data-driven. We lose the soft skills, the EQ, all those kind of things.
Yep.
Go back. It's not that we got ahead of ourselves, but go back because in doing my research on you, naturally, I saw a bunch of personality tests, a lot of things, a lot of data, a lot of storytelling about that. We as executives in our space get just inundated with that.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to use TASE or DISC or Myers-Briggs or Real Color or, there's probably 1,000 of them out on the market.
There's lots. Yeah, there's a lot of good ones too.
This is your world, Adam.
Yeah.
So I want you to talk to the entire audience like they're kindergartners and give all the executives and mid-level managers that are listening give the one-on-one Adam version of how to start. How do you look at personality testing and treat that as a discipline and an asset for you and your organization?
Okay, that's great. So I'll start with thinking about why do you want to do something?
Right.
If you don't already have something going. What's your purpose? So let's start there.
Instead of ad hocing it,
Yeah. So why do you want to bring something in? But then really think about, do a little bit of research, not the CEO personally, delegate that for sure. We're high in delegation.
Okay.
Delegate that to somebody else. Maybe research 3 to 5 companies that are reputable and then do some sampling. So sample those assessments, sample each one, make sure and have somebody professionally walk you through each one. So each assessment company is going to have someone who can review that with them, right? So just you want to test drive it essentially. Right. And then once you choose the one that's right for you, just stick to it. stick to it. But this is a change management process. So if you're bringing something into the organization, that's all change management.
Right.
So make sure you have a change management plan around it. So create a little committee, maybe 2 to 4 people who are going to own this. And it's oftentimes the people ops team, the HR team, they're going to have some say in there, because you need somebody to make sure this is pushed through the organization or pulled through the organization. Train people, get them certified. You want some internal experts. That's going to save some money down the long run, rather than you using insultants over and over, right? So do some internal training, get them certified, and then focus on how do we implement this and really get the most out of it.
Okay.
And try to stick to a tool for at least a couple of years, assuming you chose a good one. We do see people just get the shiny object syndrome where they want to jump from one to the next. They'll have colors for 2 years, then DISC for 2 years, and Myers-Briggs for 2 years. It's just that much change. It's probably not helping the company.
Is there, and again, we're not here to endorse any of them, so I'm going to get that off the table right now. But if I go back just in feels like I've been doing this for 800 years, Myers-Briggs felt like entry level.
Yeah.
And then maybe then you went up to TASER DISC or something. Then you go to, what do you have? Like
PI is a popular one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some of the more advanced ones.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that quite often out in the marketplace?
Yeah, the ones we see the most right now would be, we see PI quite a bit. That's predictive index. Yep. Trimetrics is what we use.
That's the one I saw you on your own podcast or video. Yeah.
Culture index is another one that we see. And then like offshoots of DISC would be other popular ones. So those 4, 5 or so is ones we see over and over. And those ones I mentioned are good. Something else to keep in mind is like DISC, for example, there's over 100 different providers of it.
Yes.
So there can be the version that I created in my garage last night and now I threw it online, or the version that another company makes with 30 years of research.
Okay.
And they're not identical, right? So make sure that you do get a little bit of background on even the research and the validity around the assessments. I should have mentioned that earlier when they're vetting something.
Let's take a little bit of a tangent here because this is kind of going into an area that I think a lot of people are interested, but I'd love your opinion on it. So if step in and tell me I'm wrong on any of this, because some of this is just my own experience and just listening to other executives talk about it, is, okay, they go through this exercise and let's say it's quadrants. That's an easy one to look at. Let's pretend there's quadrants. And all of a sudden we look at our organization going, holy crap, quadrant 3 we are so light on. We've got a bunch of quadrant, 1 and 2s and some in 4, but 3s we have nobody. That's who we need to hire. We need to hire quadrant 3s. And so then they double down and go towards that, and then they imbalance everything again. It's this knee-jerk reaction to how we're always missing things. Do you see that?
We will see that a little bit. And we say don't have that knee-jerk reaction of jumping to the quadrant and just hiring because it's gone. Yeah. Be much more thoughtful than that. Okay. And I think we're seeing less of that. Right. We used to see some like, we were missing that. Let's go hire a few people. Yeah, we definitely see less of that these days. Yeah. And in fact, one of the things that we help companies do is get a little more clear on why they're hiring and who they're hiring. And go through an exercise and brainstorm, why are we hiring for this role? What should that role look like? How much time should this role be invested in? What are the top priorities of that role? So getting a lot more strategic around the positions they're hiring for before you even get to the people. Yeah. Just the position itself. Yeah.
And then on that, even on this podcast, we've talked a lot about the AI development of using AI to supplement what typically was, kind of an obstacle for a lot of companies of the job descriptions, the this, the that, the filling those gaps. The AI is out there to utilize it. I mean, that's almost like entry level AI stuff. So I don't know how you feel about it, but it feels like this could be a natural first step for those of you out there in the audience listening or watching this going, if you want to make a leap into it, AI is a very good spot to help supplement this kind of stuff in the beginning. Yeah. Is that a fair statement?
It is. Have you guys talked about ChatGPT on here yet?
It's mentioned
a little bit here and there.
All the usual platforms, even I think on last week or the week before we even got into BART a little bit and Jasper and some of the other ones that are out there competing. But ChatGPT, of course, everyone seems to be using that on the HR front.
They are. It's a great place to start. And if you haven't used it yet, it's a great place to begin. Yeah. You mentioned job descriptions. It's low-hanging fruit. Try that. And get a little more specific. Hey, we're going to hire a director of marketing at Bleu Wave. We want this is the target audience that we typically serve. And it's going to serve up a pretty good job description for you. And then it's probably 80% of the way there. you can then go back and refine it and make it yours.
It just seems like it's giving people that impetus and that confidence, if you will, to like, oh, I can do this. Because, you know, it's like you said, it's 80% there. All right, I can refine the other 20%.
Exactly.
Where before everyone's like, oh, you know,
Where do I
let's be honest. It got pushed to the back.
Yeah.
I'm not good at that. I don't like to do it. I don't know what to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we will say job description is just a piece of that puzzle. So in fact, going back to the hiring for a second, although we don't really specialize in that anymore, we will still help companies kind of learn this process of hiring the right people. And there's this process that we teach, and it's say, hey, before you go hire a position, especially if it's the first time, bring a few people into the room that understand this role well, brainstorm together. Why does this job exist within our company? And because that'll create natural debate about why this job exists, because you may have one perspective of a job, one of your team members has a different perspective, but if you're the one making the job description and you're the one managing that person, it's all your bias.
Yeah, it should.
Yeah, so bring in a few people, have that discussion, create the role clarity, align that with the strategic vision of the company, and then go use ChatGPT for the job description and refine it.
I think I think you gave a nice little formula for that. All right, let's transition over into what I think we need to spend more time on, and that's the soft stuff, which is the EQ and emotional intelligence. So again, for just starting at ground zero, you walk in a room that they don't even know what that means.
Yep.
All right, Adam, give me the spiel.
Yep.
You know, ground someone on what that really means, and then how to take full advantage of it within their organization.
Okay. Before I do that, I want to share a quick little story with you.
Please.
So this had been about 8 years ago. So at this time, I had trained hundreds of people in EQ. We've certified them. I was confident in it. But
he had his badge of honor.
Yeah, I did. I was pretty confident. But then we got this opportunity to go to the Carpenters Union of America.
Ooh.
Familiar with it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the campus in Las Vegas. And they were looking, so they're a training organization, essentially, and they were looking to become accredited in EQ, and they wanted to train like 5,000 people. That was their goal. Such a kind of a BHAG. So they reached out to us. This was at TTI. My TTI days.
Oh, yeah. You were still there.
Yeah, I was still there. They reached out to us and said, hey, can you guys come train our training staff and then train us on how to teach carpenters? And I was like, okay, I'm getting thrown into the fire. Let's go try it. So I went to Vegas, got my tour of the campus, pretty sweet campus. And then I was a little bit of anxiety going into that one. So here we are, a room of about
15, a little tougher crowd.
Yeah, 15 or so former carpenters who have now transitioned into the training and development side of the industry. And essentially my goal was to train them on how they could then train 5,000 carpenters. And fast forward, it went really well. A little bit of anxiety going in, but what we realized there is we're all people.
Yes.
We all have emotions. Whether we can describe them or not, we all have them. Whether we know how to manage them, that's what the whole program is about. So that was about 8 years ago. And then from that day forward, I knew, okay, we can do this with anybody. So now I walk into a room of 20, 30, 40, you put the number in there, and the topic is emotional intelligence. We're going to have a mixed room. Some people already kind of know what it is. They might even know the terms. They might have read a book here and there. Some people have no clue what it is. They hear emotions. And they're like, you're not going to tell me how to talk. So we have...
I'm going to be the tough thing.
Yeah, you're going to be that one? Yeah. So our goal is to have them walk out of there having an understanding of why it matters of how they connect with people. That it was one thing to be a manager and tell people what to do and have them do it. It's another thing to be a leader and have them want to follow you and actually inspire them. And it takes EQ to do that. Yeah. And you've seen it, we've seen it, this whole shift in construction in the last 5-10 years, the old school way of managing people to the new school way. And we still have mixed groups when they're going through our program. Some are this is the way I came up. I should tell somebody how to do it. They don't do it the first time. I don't want them on my team. Versus oh no, I have to learn how to inspire this person and talk to them in a different way. And EQ plays a role in that. I mean, it's not all EQ, but it definitely plays a role in that. So we're trying to teach, here are the fundamentals of it, and let's see if you can embrace it and then grow it over time, because it is a skill that you can get better at. Mm-hmm. Just like working out. You put a plan in place, you work at it, you then assess yourself 6 months down the road and continue to get better at it and continue to hone it in.
So how do those that don't know it, don't understand it, how do they assess whether they're weak at it or not?
Good question. So we've talked a lot about TTI. They have
Yeah.
a great assessment to do so. So it's a diagnostic assessment. So it's a test.
So
So
and I assume there's other things out there on the market.
there are, of course,
Yeah.
there are other, So go Google EQ test or assessment, and you'll get a variety of them.
You can
So
get probably everything from free, which probably won't get you much, to
exactly
there-
to a couple
you get,
$100.
You get what you pay for.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're gonna start with a diagnostic tool. So it's going to assess your strengths and weaknesses. There's either like the 4-part model or a 5-part model. We use a 5-part model: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, social awareness, social regulation.
Okay.
So those are the 5 areas. And you're gonna take a test, and it's gonna then give you scores back. It's gonna show how well you did. It's also gonna compare you to the national average in whichever country you live in. It's gonna compare you to that data set, so you can see, oh, am I above average, am I below average? It's then gonna give you suggestions and things you can work on. So when you're in our program, we're gonna help you hone in on which one to choose. So we're gonna say, hey, don't work on all 5 at one time. That's disastrous. Well, let's choose like one. So we think of your role and looking at these 5 factors, what's going to help you the most? And then put a plan in place to work on those 5 factors.
What? Well, okay. So you answered the question. Then once you have the assessment, then the action plan is hire someone like you to help implement that. Is that what you're advocating for?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it doesn't.
There's got to be some. There's
an
organic
in-betweener.
ways to do it. Yeah, tweeners.
Yeah, there's in-betweeners. I mean, the report that we use itself, it gives you tips.
Right.
So, hey, if that works for you, go for it. It's a lower investment. If you want to hire a coach to actually meet with you every couple of weeks, that's an option. It's from one extreme to the other, right? And then we just coincidentally, we are launching an EQ online program in a few weeks here. So there we go, right? Thanks for the setup. Yeah. So you spent the last 6 months developing this curriculum online. So it's self-guided.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it just walks you through the whole thing.
So again, without mentioning names, do you have any transformative stories that you can share about a company or an individual that was low on the EQ spectrum, EQ side, and where they really turned it around and it impacted their business?
I can. I'll talk about one person specifically, and it's recent. It just happened a few weeks ago. So we have a person going through a 12-month program with us, and the first month was EQ. So we started with EQ, and they are in a group of 20 other people. So we start with EQ. That's month 1. Then over the course of the 12 months, they go through other stuff. But in month 1, their EQ scores came back kind of lower. And this person works in the people department of a business that we would all know. And her role is to help other people. And she was a little surprised at her level of emotional intelligence based on the results of that assessment, but she didn't disagree with it. So
and again, what level of leadership was she at?
This is going to be just under a director.
Just okay. I just want to put that in perspective.
Yeah, just under a director, but on the people team who takes care of all the people.
So pretty high level.
It's pretty high level.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and years working in this type of this space. So she's not like new to people. So fast forward the end of the program. At the very end, we had them retake EQ. Because again, that is a skill you can develop. So she retook it, and she comes up to me. She's like, Adam, you're not going to believe this. Let me show you this. Because I don't look at all the results. She's like, look at my score. She's comparing A to B, right? Month 1 to month 12. It's like, this actually worked. Like, I'm actually getting better at this stuff. She's like, I'm more aware of my emotions and how I'm communicating with people. And I was like, okay, we did our job.
Yeah.
Right? Like for that one person. And that's what it's all about. I mean, we're helping companies get better, but we can't take the sight off of the individual.
Well, that'd be hypocrisy if you said otherwise, because that's what the whole EQ is about, is the personal, the personal approach, and then the sum of the, what is it? The sum of the parts equals the whole, right?
Exactly.
If you focus on the whole in the beginning, you're going to lose the battle.
Exactly. Yeah. So we got to focus on the individual. Yep.
All right. What else on that topic would you like to share? Or do you think it's important for the audience to understand, so that they can embrace it and either double down on what they're already doing or get over their fear factor to even approach it in the first place?
I don't necessarily think we need to double down on it, but obviously take a look at it. And maybe what I could say is, I think many people probably assume that, oh no, I have high emotional intelligence, I don't need to work on that. But maybe go take a test and see how you score, because EQ does trace back to superior performance and leadership. And I know we didn't talk about that much, but there's a emotional intelligence book written by Daniel Goleman. It's one of the first ones written, years ago. And one of the stats in that book, so he did some research on top performers in leadership. And one of the stats in that book says 90% of star performers in leadership have high EQ.
90%.
90%. Yeah.
Doesn't
So we
surprise
look at
me.
it as like it's an attribute that you got to have to become one of those star leaders. And a star leader doesn't just mean I run a successful business. It's like, no, are you inspiring your people to want to follow you? That's what EQ's.
I think the takeaway though is, even if you're not born with it or you're not in the environment for it, you can learn it.
For
And
sure.
Not saying you're going to get to 95%, but if you care that much about it, you can learn it.
Yeah. Yep. You're 100% correct.
Okay.
And then just to go off on a slight tangent of away from, how can I inspire someone to go try for themselves? Okay, now look at your people, the people that you work with. Think about could they benefit from it? Yeah. A lot of times they're the ones that really can benefit from it, and so we're trying to help them just be aware of the message that they're sending and how they're sending it. And they could be leading teams of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people, and they're impacting a lot of people every day. And some of them have just very, very poor EQ.
There comes a time when dreams become a reality, when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Blue Wave, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Blue Wave to get it done right the first time.
Let's go back 3 years now to when COVID started.
Yeah.
And okay, you're an expert in this. You see it all day, every day. Those from then until now in the last 3 years, did companies get better or worse on understanding and implementing and adapting to EQ? Because part of me is, we've had a lot of discussions on this podcast about how COVID affected things differently. The remoteness, the this, the that, all that kind of stuff. But did we lose touch with the emotional side during those tough years of COVID? And did it have damaging effects on our workforce?
Yeah, I can only make assumptions.
I know,
but
through your perspective.
Yeah. So we also work in the area of stress a little bit, and we have seen stress go up. So, if you're not managing your stress, that could lead to the inability to manage your emotions. So I would have to say, short answer, yeah.
They go hand in hand.
Yeah, they do go hand in hand. Yeah. So if you don't
but
have,
there's that one's not a predecessor to the other one. Okay.
No. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're not taking care of, if you don't have like these life strategies to take care of your stress, it's going to trickle into your emotions and your ability to manage your emotions and influence people.
I guess what I was trying to do is kind of paint a picture of
like
again,
COVID.
I'm just gonna hypothesize and kind of give a story here. Is that, and you hit the nail on the head. Especially in our space, everything's been boom. COVID had an immediate effect, but then the backlog and everything that's been going on with the growth of stuff in the valley is, I'm painting kind of the dire picture of those companies are successful just because of what's going on.
Yep.
And if they're not looking internal, the minute there's a glitch or something in this growth bubble, there's this growth curve, and they're not looking at the EQ side of their business, it could have a pretty detrimental effect.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was going with this. Is that kind of in spite of themselves, you could have gotten through it post-COVID just because of the growth.
Yep.
That's where I was going. You got to look in the mirror and understand, do we have a grasp on our EQ? Because if not, we're going to lose all of our team.
I would definitely agree with you there. And I would just even say broaden just EQ. Just look at your team in general. Look at the people. Yeah, do they have the leadership skills, the qualities? During this time, have you continued to grow your people? Which I think many companies have kind of slowed down because they're so focused on the business that's out there. They aren't investing the time and the resources to grow the people because the business is there, to your point. But what's going to happen, and we don't know if this is going to tip, but is it going to tip? And then are things going to slow down? What businesses will still be around? It's probably the ones that are investing in their people this whole time and growing them and coaching them, developing them.
Well, and it's just like going back to Phoenix Business Journal or other publications in town that just published, within the last quarter or two, best places to work, all those kind of things. Yeah, I mean, it's out there all the time, those high lists.
All the time.
And when you look at it, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at the high performers. They're getting this at a very high level and making it kind of altruistic within their organizations. So
they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, strategically, they think it's the right decision.
Oh, yeah.
But then also, it's like, they take the altruistic approach of let's help our people.
Well, they're walking the talk.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
All right. Switching gears. What again into your fun rockstar workforce leadership stuff? What are the topics that I kind of took you down some rabbit holes? What are some that you want to take me back through that you encounter every day?
So EQ is a big one. Communication's a big one.
What?
Yeah, right.
Did you say something?
And you mentioned DISC earlier. So DISC is a portion of the trimetric assessment we use, like just helping people communicate better, just be more effective. That's a big one. Aligning roles with what people's passions and their drives. That's another big conversation we've been having quite a bit of.
Okay.
It's, what do you enjoy doing? And where do you thrive? So trying to maximize on some of your natural skills and align that with your career. That would be going on a more kind of one-on-one path with a leader, with an individual, but really trying to align with what their natural strengths are, with where they go. So, but that requires you to have real conversations about what makes you happy. Yeah. Where do you see yourself in a few years? And if you're not going to ask me the question, I'm going to say it now, is, what's a piece of advice I'd give to give to leaders out there today? It's get more personal with your leaders. And not your leaders, with your people. Yeah. Truly understand what makes them tick. Truly understand what makes them happy, where they're going to go in the next few years. Because then you can start to set yourself up. Are we the right person? Are we the right company for that? The right team for that? And that's going to help you, keep your people around. And we're kind of teaching that in a sense. So trying to close those gaps, help people create those career paths.
In our pre-work that I'm in my cheat sheets that I'm looking down at, one of the things we really didn't. I mean, we've skirted it, but we haven't gotten into defining it. But let me just read it to you. How do you win the war on talent in such a competitive environment? We haven't got down in a granular discussion on that. What are your feelings and advice on that?
Yeah. So I would say it's going to start with creating a culture that you understand, and that you understand.
You can't just steal it from another company.
Yeah, you can't just go Google core values and put those on the wall. That's not what it's about. Yeah. So taking a deeper dive into what your culture is all about, and then try to attract the right people. And as you're getting out there talking to people through your recruiting strategy, try to get the right ones. Don't hire a body just to hire a body. Try to get ones that are going to be the right fit for your culture, because every company is a little bit different. And then once you have them, this goes back to the whole people strategy. So once you have those people, identify what makes them tick, what's going to make them happy. Try to create a development plan for them, whether that's you mentoring them for 30 minutes once a month, or you recognizing that, hey, this person really has something. I want to invest a few $1,000 and send into one of those leadership programs we mentioned, right? So determining the best path is, and then implementing some of the best practices that we already mentioned, like the stay interview, the skip level meeting, to really try to stay in tune with your people. Many companies have jumped on the bandwagon or on the best practice of doing surveys. So not a bad thing. You have to do a couple of those throughout the year, just kind of get a pulse of the organization. And something we haven't mentioned, which when we go to create development programs for internal companies, so if we're being brought in to create a private program, one of the first things we want to do is what we call the discovery process. So rather than just coming to the company and saying, hey, here's our 12-month program, do you like it? And we want to go and say, hey, let's understand what your company really needs. And we do this in a variety of ways. So first, we're going to meet with the leadership team, ask them, what are some of the key areas that you think your team needs to focus on? We're then going to go down to that management level and say, all right, now that if you guys might be going through a management program, what are some of the things you want to learn? And we'll do this through an anonymous survey, through Zoom cohort calls. We'll just have a few of them jump on. But then we'll also do a layer deeper, and we'll go to the people that they manage. So we'll create like an anonymous survey and go to those people and say, hey, your organization is considering creating a management training program, leadership training program. Here's a variety of topics that might be covered. Rank these, categorize these. We have a variety of ways we'll do this. So essentially, we're trying to get input from them as well. So now you have a pretty well-rounded picture of the areas that your managers need to grow and work on, and then that creates the actual program. So if you're looking to create something like this, I definitely recommend taking that approach.
Okay. I realized too that we glazed over this one, but I think it's important that we kind of go back around the wagon on this one, and that is the data-driven pieces of all of this. So, it seems like it ebbs and flows, right? You don't have enough, then you have too much, and then you try to overcorrect and go the other way. I mean, I'll fall on the sword. I know we've done it with our own organization where, you try to use data in the right, take the data, combine it with the EQ, and then give them what they need. When I say them, the organization, what they need to then give you that feedback. What are you seeing that's in vogue or trending in either the right or the wrong direction as far as the data-driven stuff, Adam? Because I think that's an important question for a lot of people out there.
And just to make sure I understand, when you say the data-driven, like referring to the surveying I kind of just mentioned.
Well, it could be surveys, KPIs, all these kind of things. Like, okay, we've talked about a lot of the soft skills, but then we still have to go back to the hard skills or what I call the hard set data to help drive decisions in organizations.
Yep.
We kind of poo-pooed that at the first part of this conversation. So in the time remaining, I would like to just get your input and kind of your perspective of what are you seeing that's good and bad out there in the firms that you're representing as far as what they're doing right with that data.
Okay.
Or wrong too.
Yeah. So I definitely think data is important. You got to have the KPIs, the goals. You have to have clear expectations. So whatever that matches up to KPIs or goals, you have to have clear expectations so people know what's expected of them. What we're seeing probably people need to get better at is holding others accountable. So when you have team members,
you answered the big one.
Yeah, when you have team members not meeting expectations, what are you as a leader going to do about it? Oftentimes, the people that are reporting to this leader don't even know the expectations. So that's where you got to start. So you got to go back to, okay, what are the KPIs? What are the goals? What are we trying to achieve? And make sure it's communicated properly. And we talk about communicating your message quite a bit, and this will wrap in goals, KPIs to this. So think of if you have an initiative and you're trying to knock down a big project with certain KPIs or goals, you got to over communicate the message. So as a leader, communicate it over and over and over until the team members can basically repeat it back to you. Because just because you said it one time doesn't mean they heard it. You got to say it over and over and over, and then hold them accountable. We have many leaders. So managing conflict is one of our sessions. This will all tie together. We have this exercise where we ask, what's your comfort level with conflict? And we have, many of them are on the very far left side, which is not the good side. It's like they're not comfortable with it. Right. They will avoid it
at all costs.
Yeah. So then how are you going to hold someone accountable to expectations if you're unwilling to have that conversation? Yeah. And unfortunately, they do see holding people accountable as conflict.
Yes.
And so that's where we have to kind of break them of that. It's like, hey, if you told someone to do something or you lead them to do it, they don't do it. That's not conflict. That's just you having a conversation with them saying, here are the expectations. You didn't meet them. So what are we going to do about it? So trying to teach people how to have those conversations and have some confidence around it. And that is a big area.
I can see how that's a hot topic.
Yeah. It's holding others accountable. Yeah. That's a tough one.
All right, my friend. What haven't I asked you today? Or what haven't we discussed
what
that you'd love to tell the audience either about Adam Wong or your business? By the way, what's your wife's name?
My wife's name is Amber.
Amber.
Yeah, so been with her for 17 years now. Yeah, we've been in business together for 5.
I think you have the context wrong. She's been with you for 17
She has.
years.
Yep.
Okay, let's get that straight right now.
We got a couple of kids. Yeah, we kind of blew right over that at the beginning, didn't we? Yeah, so we had a couple of kids together.
What do you do for fun?
We do a lot. So we spend a lot of time outside.
Yep.
The last 2 years has been a little bit chaotic. We built a custom house. So that it was a challenge. but we probably chose the perfect wrong time to build a custom house. We should have known working in construction like we do, but we did it. We got it done, and we've been in for a few months.
When you're still
So we're
married,
getting
so
settled in.
it's good. It's good. Yeah, you
it's
passed
good.
the litmus test.
Yeah, we did. We're way up north off Carefree Highway.
Oh.
So we hiking and stuff up there, mountain biking. So we stay pretty active.
Good.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to spend some time on the water, a little bit of vacations with the kids, and a lot of kid stuff. You know, my son's in jiu-jitsu, daughter's in dance, and they keep us busy.
That's nice.
Yeah.
How does the other than Rockstar Workforce, you talked about Arizona Growth Advisors. I know you speak and present, and you're pretty active in the community and things like that. But is the best way to get a hold of you just through Rockstar Workforce? I mean, you're all over social media, so I know it's easy to find you.
Either hop on Instagram, LinkedIn at Rockstar Workforce, or Adam Wong AZ, either one. And then just email me, adam@rockstarworkforce.com. It's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah.